Okay, we're live now.
We're live,
No,
yeah.
no, you're not. You're not. You're not. You're not. You're not. You're not.
We
You're
are
not.
live. It says 5. I can see the clock.
Yeah, I can see the clock. It says live, producer.
Producer.
Thank you very much. Anyway,
Typical. We handled it better when he was away.
let me mute my phone. Welcome to Set the Trend podcast. Glad that we're here. We're here again in our inevitable style and fashion. Vibes and my co-host for tonight, Reggie Heavy Man Styles. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. All good. In good spirits for now.
That's good. And you've got a wonderful building behind you. What's all that about?
Yeah, I thought I'd salute our esteemed academic guests today. And behind me is King's College, Cambridge, from the river. If you've ever been to Cambridge, you know that's that beautiful river in the summer where you can go punting along. And I thought I'll, just show a bit of love.
And of course, you've been there on your uni days as a DJ.
I've been there DJing, but not uni days. Sadly, I haven't reached the highest heights of being asked to attend any Cambridge College. I might have frequented one or two of the bars on a night out, and that's it really. And maybe rampage through the halls once in a while. That's the closest I've got to actually being at Cambridge.
Cool. And Reggie, for our listeners again, because I haven't been doing it, but I think I should. Your expertise on our panel, your background is?
Which one?
Your background.
Music industry. Music industry.
Yeah, what kind of music industry? What do you do? You're a radio plugger?
Okay, so run my own radio plugging company. I've also just recently set up an African music label, properly launching one. I set it up about 4 years ago, but launching it properly this year, and doing a few other bits and pieces. Still doing my FCA, which is the Financial Conduct Authority thing. So hopefully next year I'll be able to handle all those millions that you have and invest it wisely.
No, Reggie, you're a corporate executive. You tell us the business side of the industry, what we don't know, because you're so corporate and you know that whole music side much more better than us. So that's also part of your unique selling point on Set the Trend.
Oh yeah, of course. That's one thing that I try to bring to the table, and appreciate you for giving me such an esteemed title.
Problem, mate. It only goes downhill from you from here anyway. Mr. Michael Eastender, our resident promoter and music almanac extraordinaire. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. A little bit tender in my arms, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But
yes. We will talk about that a little bit later on, because of course, just for some of our viewers, you've had the COVID jab, you've had the vaccine, and we have some guests on later that are going to tell us your survival rate.
The chances.
My chances.
The chances. So we'll be talking more about that later on. I think while we talk about that, we have two COVID survivors on the panel. I had it March. I haven't had the vaccine. I haven't been asked to have the vaccine. And we'll talk about that later on.
You had it in the first wave, is that?
I had it in the first wave, when I didn't know what it was. It was no taste, no smell, and I wondered what's going on. I managed to start eating foods at that time that I didn't like, though, because obviously you can't taste or smell nothing. So whatever you're eating just all tastes the same. So it doesn't make you sick, so you don't feel sick. So that wasn't too bad. So that's the show tonight. Mainly is going to be on COVID and the vaccine, and we have some esteemed guests joining us tonight. Dr. Atta Ocholi, Dr. Christopher Farrell, and of course, journalist Nadine Drummond will be in the building. We have to apologize on behalf of Donell Jones. He cannot make it with us tonight. He's rescheduled us for March.
Unfortunately, there was a conflict in the diary, and like Liverpool, we lost. So he, he decided to he had to take this other job on, which was
Why
but he has
mention
rescheduled and he's
Why mention
apologized
Liverpool? Why mention Liverpool though?
because oh, sorry, it was a loss.
Oh, I forgot my toffees today. Damn.
Oh yeah,
Gosh, I was supposed to bring my toffees.
blue ones.
Yeah.
That's all right. But he has rescheduled and he's going to be with us in March, which is just like 2 weeks away. And he
you're
does
gonna let us know, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. So
it's only,
you're gonna be so
it's only a game of football.
please.
What,
So
Donald Jones is
earlier
not
than-
Game of Football?
Earlier than scheduled, are we gonna be talking about the vaccine? We have
Sorry,
the
Richard.
doctors to answer our questions at about 9:25. Between then, we've got some things to talk about. Next week's show, first and foremost, can we bring up what's going on? Richard, let's not talk about football. Good evening to you, sir. Next week, we have...
Must be a Liverpool man.
No, it's not a Liverpool fan kind up. Next week, we have Jay Blades in the building from the repair shop.
Yeah.
Repair shop. He will be in the building and we'll be talking to him about music and his life next week. He's a Hackney boy. He's an ex-sound guy, for those of you who didn't know. He's got sound man credentials flowing through his blood. And we're going to be talking to him next week here on Set the Trend podcast.
I love his show as well. Wicked.
And we'll also have Kim Tavar, who's
Tavares.
She'll be here, and she's a neo. Is it? No, she's not neo soul. She's a soul, isn't it?
She's just soul singer, songwriter, amazing young lady.
And she'll be performing live for us, won't she? She'll be performing live.
Yeah, she's going to be. We're going to interview her, and she's going to give us a couple of songs. I do believe she said.
Okay, it's cool.
Yeah.
So thank you. Right. Well, one of the first things that we want to talk about was the death of a great pioneer, the original, the Don Dada, the Don Gorgon, the first of the first. If it wasn't for him, we probably wouldn't have Stormzy, we wouldn't have Saxon, we wouldn't have Tipper, we wouldn't have all those famous DJs that went on from dancehall to house and garage to jungle, right through to now. If Daddy U-Roy didn't pattern, as we would say in our Jamaican tone, pattern the thing in the beginning, he was the one that created actually toasting, chatting lyrics over a record.
Do ya? As I would say.
Yeah, wake the town and tell the people about this musical disc coming your way.
A chicka bow, wow, wow. A chicka bow, wow.
So salute to Daddy U-Roy, who died this week. Was it Wednesday? I got the night, Wednesday morning or Thursday? Wednesday morning, I think it was.
When
He passed away. I don't think it was COVID. I think he had been ill for a few weeks anyway. So I think it was that. But salutes to him, and let's I don't know what Pamela. Pamela's so fruity lately. I don't know what that's about. So that's what's happening. So we're bigging up the king of dancehall, and that's
the Godfather, Daddy U-Roy.
Godfather, the number one. Time Magazine. Do you want to tell us about Time Magazine, Reggie?
Time Magazine, yes. The front cover of basically Time Magazine brought out the most influential 100 new people, and quite a few people are in it. Funny enough, the mayor of Freetown, which is the capital of Sierra Leone, which is the country I'm from, is featured in there. But also on the front cover is Marcus. One of the covers is Marcus Rashford as well, the Manchester United footballer. So big up and congratulations to everybody who's managed to make it onto the top 100 Time Magazine list. It's definitely something which is revered and people like to be on it, although I believe Donald Trump was once on the front cover of Time as the most influential. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the standards dropped slightly then, but apart from that, yeah, it's a great thing. Make sure you go check it out, and you'd be surprised at some of the people who are included in the most influential top 100.
Okay, and another one of the topics that we want to talk about, and we were going to touch on, I'm going to go to, I mean, we've got Let's go to our royal correspondent, Mr. Eastender. Meghan and Harry. All this drama that's going on with Meghan and Harry. Come on.
Look, I just think that,
Don't sit on the fence.
I'm not sitting on the fence. I just think leave them alone. It's like, Meghan, Harry, do your thing. Whatever the Queen wants to do, they can do their thing. The press are just obsessed with Meghan. I don't know if it's because she's black. I know she doesn't claim herself to be black, but hey, that's another story for another time.
Well, the press see her as black anyway, and everybody else sees her as
black. But everyone else sees her as black.
Or biracial, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm not. Look, I just think that it's a bit boring every time I hear a story about the two of them, and it's like, look, they're doing their thing they're on their journey. She's in love with Harry, and Harry's in love with Let Love Live, yeah.
But Reggie, do you reckon it's Meghan calling the shots, or do you think it's Harry, or do you think it's just both of them just one end?
I don't think it matters. I think if you're a couple and you're cohabiting with each other, you've had a relationship. All of us have been in a relationship here on this here panel, and sometimes there are guys. Well, I don't know about
Sorry.
Anyway, basically, I personally feel it is a disgusting witch hunt amongst a small group of media people who are old dinosaurs that have been in the game for ages. They have seen the Meghan and Harry effect and how popular they are compared to other members of the royal family, and looked at the opportunity since the wedding as a way to literally sell column inches. Because you have to remember, she was in Suits and she was a TV star. She was huge. And they all had access to her for interviews when she was doing Suits. Then all of a sudden, obviously, she's dating Harry. She's relinquished from being and courting the press in that way, where they want to ask her silly questions, about what do you wear to bed and all that type of stuff. So obviously she's avoided certain parts of the media who she used to speak to. One of those, obviously, Piers Morgan, who had a number on speed dial, and all of a sudden he's moaning, saying, "Oh, I can't get hold of her now," because they're trying to use her for their own gain, for their own press. You're a journalist, EastEnder,
to get their column space.
Exactly, and I think
article.
And I think it's turned into a disgusting witch hunt against Meghan and Harry. And, even some of them are turning against Harry as well and saying, "Oh, why didn't he go and marry her?" At the end of the day, when Harry was in America doing up, party and, champagne by the pool in Vegas and stuff like that, you didn't really hear much about it because they wanted to quell it. And then they brought in the propaganda machine. And then all of a sudden, Harry, the superhero in Afghanistan, doing an interview, running off into a helicopter as...
What I'm really surprised about is that you don't hear William defending his brother.
Well, he's not going to, because he's the heir to the throne. He's got to keep in line with the royal protocol, and that's the thing. You have to understand. He's got to keep in line with the royal protocol. So, the key thing, people forget that the royal family is a business. The Duchy of Cornwall, all that estate owns a lot of things that people don't realise. They own a lot of land. They own a lot of businesses. They have a lot of things. There's a vested interest to ensure that the royal family maintain the legacy.
Is it just not that she's not from the stock neither? She's not one of them?
I don't think that is too much, because if you think about it, he's sixth in line. In line to be the next king. So
yeah, but come on. But she's not from the establishment, is she? She's a commoner.
I wouldn't say she's a commoner. I think she's a human being. She's a human being.
Listen, Reg, in terms of, if you're not royalty, if you haven't got that royal blood...
We're all royal. I don't know about you, but I came from kings and queens. I was born in Africa.
Okay, yeah, all right. I get you. Haile Selassie and all that. What I'm saying to you is this.
Nothing to do with Haile Selassie.
No, what I'm saying to you is this, right? What I'm saying to you is this, mate. Yeah. When it comes to Blue Blood and how the Buckingham Palace see the royal family and everybody in it, if you're not married, if you're not one of them, then as far as they're concerned, you're out anyway, and you're just a commoner. So I hear what you're saying.
What's going to be really... real interesting is that obviously she's pregnant, expecting her second child, and that child's going to be born in America. So that child's not even going to be a British.
He's going to have dual nationalship, isn't he? Because
dual nationality.
It's going to be all right. It's going to be cool. But
anyway,
they did the same thing.
I wish them the best of luck.
They did the same thing to Edward as well. You know what I mean?
Harry, hey, listen, forget about Idris. Just call me for the christening, innit?
you want the booking?
Yeah, I want the booking.
Right, so I think we'll leave that there. I think we'll leave it for everybody else to discuss.
Yes.
You know,
a lot of people were upset about Donell Jones not being on, by the way.
Yes,
Very
I am
upset.
upset.
So, Donell, if you're listening and watching, wherever you are
upset.
People are upset. You let us down. Set the trend, you know. Set the trend. What?
Yeah, but
Please, anyway, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button and like and share. If you're on Facebook now, if you can just share the link for us as well. We have a very important topic for our community that's coming up in about 3 or 4 minutes' time. And we're talking about the vaccine and about whether, well, we're talking about two things. The uptake from Black and ethnic minorities in terms of taking the vaccine, and also whether or not we should. We're not going to tell you. Anyway, we're going to go there. Before I introduce them, I'm going to go there. I'm just going to make you know how we feel about it. Well, some of my panel might feel differently, but it's going to be an interesting conversation. So just like, share it, because there's a lot of conversation to be had around that. So before I go to our guests, did I have something else to talk about?
Yeah, there was actually.
One of our other kings, kings of soul music. It's reported that Stevie Wonder is moving to Ghana.
Yes. Well done, Stevie.
Now what can I say? And you know how much people have been talking about Ghana now for the last 10, 15 years. People have been talking about Ghana as one of the must-be places to go and to move. How do you feel about that, EastEnder?
I think it's amazing. But, I think Stevie Wonder's always got his finger on the pulse. I'm surprised he didn't make that move a little bit earlier, because he's always like one step of it. Oh, he's a genius, and he kind of knows what's happening before it happens. I'm surprised it's taken him so long to do it, but he's done. And nowhere better than to sit back and relax in the comfort of a beautiful country.
Yeah, and he was poorly, wasn't he? He wasn't too well. So it's great to get somewhere like the motherland and be in Ghana. And big up to the Ghanaians. They're doing some amazing things in Ghana at the moment. So many people are building and providing literally a new land in Ghana at the moment. So I've got a due respect to all the Ghanaians who are doing really, really well.
Have you DJ'd out there yet, Reggie?
I haven't DJ'd in Ghana. Actually,
Yeah.
I've DJ'd in Nigeria, I've DJ'd in a few other African countries, Liberia and a few others, but I haven't played in Ghana, but I have stopped off in Ghana before, and it was a great experience to be in Accra. So,
Accra.
But I had to leave fast.
Richard, can you read out some of the comments in the chat room before we go and introduce our guest, please?
Oh, yes, indeed. On Facebook, we have got Evelyn Beckley, who is saying, yeah, great stuff, and, big up Ghana. You've also got So Fine. Big up So Fine. Evening blessings, Soul Kings. Evelyn says, I've had it a long time waiting for the second one, so that's regarding the vaccine. Colin Williams says, I don't know if I should say that, but he says Donell Jones is boring anyway. Also, we have somebody saying something about the fact that I haven't taken a breath. Big up Jackie Simpson. She said, Ray, you are going to have to play Donell tonight and sing over his song. We need compensation and justice. But to be honest, actually, producer, if you've got it lined up ready, we have got our own royalty here, and I don't know if he moonlights as here on the podcast, but he also moonlights as an actor in a period drama called Bridgerton. Okay, and his name is Mr. Hastings, aka Sweet Vibes. Have you got the picture there? Can we just look at a comparison? If you've got it there, any of the producers? Okay, they're not going to do it. You see.
Got to pay him a little bit more than that, Reggie.
Ah, come on, producers.
You've
We've
got
got to see
to
this
say-
comparison. Don't you mean he looks like Mr. Hastings? Look. Yeah. You see? He's like your twin. I told you, moonlighting as an actor, Ray.
You look like my young brother.
Yeah. And he's in Vogue at the moment as well, so you're lucky, mate. I think that's probably why you got so many viewers on Breakfast Blues.
You reckon that is, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're tuning in. They're tuning in thinking that you're Reggae Jean. Reggae Jean. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Is it Reggae Jean or Reggae Jean? Or Reggie Jean? Reggie Jean.
Bridgerton, if you haven't seen it, please see it. Period drama, and it's great.
And Lupin as well. You gotta watch that.
And yeah. That's fine. That's on Netflix. Right. So let's go into it. This show, we're now going to be talking about COVID and effects of COVID and the vaccine. Before we bring on our guest, just like to say to everybody out there who's listening, it's very important you share and forward this on to people who may have an interest in listening to some of the knowledge and information that our guests will pass on to you. And this is not going to be your WhatsApp group where there's information coming in and you don't know where it's from. It's not going to be someone texting you and just giving you information. It's not going to be the girl or the guy on the road. You ain't meeting in the barbershop, or you can't meet in the barbershop. But you can't on the road and someone's just talking what they think it is with the vaccine and complications and what's in the vaccine and who shouldn't take it and who should take it. This show should be forwarded to your people. Anybody that you love and you're thinking about, and is thinking about it, even if they're not thinking about it, it's good for them to take in some information.
Can I also say, if you got any questions that you want to ask our experts, feel free to put them in the chat now, and we'll pose the question to them during the next hour and a half.
Yeah, this show is interactive. We really need your participation in it. So Facebook and YouTubers, please, if you have any questions on behalf of yourself or on behalf of anybody else, please feel free to put it in the chat, and we will look at the questions and ask some of those questions to our panelists. Yeah, so it's a both way. It's a really two-way thing today. So please, can we have your participation today? I've had COVID. And I'm not too sure about the vaccine myself. So I'm going to listen keenly. I'm two-faced. I'll put that out there straight away. If they tell me I can't fly, I'm going to take it. I'm putting that out there. You know what I mean? Because I'm not staying in this country for 12 months. I ain't getting no sun. I'll put it out there. But whether I would take it without flying out, I'm yet to be persuaded. So we're not here to tell everybody to take it or anybody to take it. We're here to give you the knowledge and give you the information so you can make an informed decision. And our guests, one of our guests has definitely been working on the front line of this. So, we're speaking from experience as well. It's not just from hearsay, she say. Right? So we ready, lads?
Yep, looking forward to it.
Right. Let's go. So
can we have our guests onto the front stage for us, please? Can we welcome journalist Nadine Drummond to set the trend? Hi, Nadine. How you doing?
Hi. How are you guys doing? Thank you for having me.
Cool.
Welcome.
Welcome.
And us to come. I just wanted to say your esteem was far too great. That we're all from the same place. And we all add value in different ways. And you guys are like my heroes because you were the Sandman then when I used to rave long before COVID. And so it's an honor to share a stage with you guys because I could never carry a box or would even be allowed to select records if I had the talent. I remember one time there was this sound system called Panani Express, but they didn't.
That might be Reggie's
yeah, they didn't last them, but there was nobody. So for me, this is kind of a big deal. So thank you. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Nadine Drummond. I'm a journalist. I'm from Lewisham, which is similarly to hopefully some of the people that are tuning in. And I am a member of the Cambridge University African and Caribbean Alumni Society. And we are distressed about what's happening in our communities with regard to COVID, not just at the rate at which we're dying, but the treatment or the lack of treatment from the government in particular about the information that we're being given. And so a few friends and I, other university graduates, got together and said, well, what can we do? And so because I know Ray, I said to Ray, what do you think? Do you think we could partner and try and share some information which is fact-based and science-based to give us the best chance of survival? Because when you actually look at the statistics, it's frightening. If this was a movie, we would all be terrified, and I'm not sure that we're as afraid as we should be of what will happen with COVID in our communities because of how we live, and lots of other issues that Dr. Atta and Dr. Krista will discuss. So
pause there, and let's bring them on. Let's bring on. I'm going to leave my sore Liverpool mate and colleague Dr. Atta to the end. I'm going to bring on first Dr. Krista Farrell. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Someone's going to bring her on at some point. I'm sure. There we go. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Nice to see you here. So tell us a little bit about yourself as well. Dr. Krista, can I call you that?
Yes, you can call me that. Yes, absolutely. I'm a consultant neurologist. I did all of my training in Cambridge. So that's how I know Nadine. We're in the Caribbean Society together. So yeah, I mean, I've been a neurologist for the best part of the last 8 years, training as a doctor for the past 15 years. And in the past year, we've kind of pretty much, like most adult doctors in this country, been drawn into the COVID frontline, for want of a better word. So that's what I've been up to.
Welcome to us. I know you're going to add value,
Thank
as
you.
Nadine says, today. And I'm also going to bring on, last but definitely not least, a fellow Liverpool supporter. So he's hurting as much as me today. So I hope you can take it very, very easy on him today. Dr. Atta Ocholi, to the stage. How are you, sir?
Thank you. I'm all right. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, my game face is on. It's not been a good day, but this makes up for it. So thank you, gents, and Dean, for asking me here. Yeah.
Welcome, Dr. Atta, if I can call you that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself as well?
Yeah, so I'm Nigerian originally, so an Igala man, if you're interested. Been in the UK since 1995 now, but also went to Cambridge to study medicine and did some bit of my training in London as well. One of our sort of colleagues, Afua, who's together with us in the Alumni Society. So she asked me to get involved, and I thought, a bit like Nadine said, you want to do what you can to help the effort against COVID in our community. So I'm a pediatrician. I work as a children's doctor. I look after children with tummy problems, so pediatric gastroenterologist. You don't need to remember that. So I just look after children with dodgy,
trouble pronouncing that.
Yeah, children with dodgy tummies. That's what I do. So yeah, I can bring the pediatric experience to bear as well. But obviously, as a dad, as a man, you have to think about all the stuff going on as well. So yeah, no, looking forward to this chat we're going to have.
Welcome, Dr. Atta. Right, before I get going, what I want to do with you first is kind of ask somebody to clarify some of the key words that we'll be saying over and over again. So I've got a few key words here. You might add some other ones to the part, but I just thought that would be a good way of starting it off. So when we mention a word that, one of the words that starts going around the media and you hear going around is a super spreader. What do we actually mean by a super spreader?
Who do you want to answer? Me, Atta?
Eva.
Neither.
Either. Okay, so super spreading is usually sort of events where one person you know to have been infected with COVID manages to spread it to a very, very large number of people. So there have been a number of incidents in sort of usually large gatherings, things like churches, going to service at a church, or big family gatherings, etc., where you've had what we call super spreading events. So one person, you know, when you trace back the infection, they've had it, and then there's a whole large number of people that get it from that person subsequently.
Cool. Efficacy.
Efficacy means how well something works. So efficacy is when people are talking largely about the vaccine. And so what do you want the vaccine to do? You want the vaccine to reduce the number of people who are getting really ill or getting, needing hospitalization. And most importantly, you want to reduce the number of deaths. And then also ideally you want to reduce how much COVID is actually spreading in the community. So efficacy is how well it is doing that. And it's a measure of that.
Asymptomatic.
Asymptomatic means no symptoms. So, when the government says the symptoms you have to look out for in COVID are, cough, loss of sense of smell, taste, those are all symptoms. Those are things that you experience when you have an illness. So asymptomatic means without symptoms at all. You're going about normally. You don't think anything is wrong with you, but actually you do have the virus and you possibly can also spread it.
Cool. What does a false negative mean?
False negative. So let's say, for example, let's pretend I had COVID. So let's say I had a cough, I had a bit of a fever, and I needed to do a test. So I take the swab and I put it up my nose, I rub it around, but I don't do it properly, for example. It then goes into the little liquid, it goes off into the machine, and the machine says, oh no, Krista doesn't have COVID. But actually I do. So that's a false negative test. So it's something that says, no, the COVID, the virus is not there, when actually it is.
Great. Is there any more keywords? Because those are just keywords that I addressed that I thought might be useful. Is there any other keywords that you might say at this point, or you'd rather we just start the conversation and then we can get in at some point?
No, I was just going to say they're linked to efficacy is the word effectiveness. So what people try and do is efficacy is like in a smaller number in the testing environment, and then effectiveness is about in the real world. That what exactly so it's a bit of a technical thing, but that's the only difference. They're more or less the same thing, I think.
Okay, right. So I'm going to need you to guide me on. So when we talk about one of the reasons. And I'll address this one to Nadine first. One of the reasons that you approached us was because the government is having a problem talking to Black and ethnic minorities, getting the message across to them about how safe they believe it is for people to take the vaccine. One of the issues probably with our community is that we don't trust them. And we've had probably many reasons. Historically, we have reasons going back why we don't trust them, and we also have probably reasons over the last year in terms of some of the decisions that they've taken that we've deemed as not trustworthy decisions. They've done it for themselves. Now you're here. How do you think that we can get this message across? I mean, this maybe is one of the platforms, but how else do you think, Nadine, that we can, and how important is it to get this message across?
I'm going to backtrack just a little bit and say that we need to shift our focus. It's very clear from the government response that we're in this on our own, and we have to take responsibility for ourselves and responsibility for our information. And I'm at the stage now where I'm not sure. I'm not suggesting that we should trust the government. I don't think this is a trust issue anymore. For me, this is a survival issue, because when you look at the data, lots of us are not going to make it based on our lifestyle choices, the amount of hypertension we have in our communities, diabetes, obesity, all of these things add to our morbidity. That's the key word, Krista. Add to the chances of which we have to die. And so I don't think that the issue is about trust. The issue is about survival. I think in terms of spreading the message, I think it's about giving people access to fact-based, science-based information. And this is one of the platforms. And then when people gather information here they think is worthwhile, because we will provide sources, they can go and check it out for themselves. But what isn't acceptable to me and to, I think both Dr. Krista and Dr. Atta, that people are making decisions that won't serve them. The decisions that we're making are not going to serve us as a community. And Yeah, so to answer your question in a nutshell, it's sharing fact-based information and understanding that we're in this on our own. We have to take responsibility for ourselves, and the government clearly doesn't think it owes us anything. So whatever, we just have to do our best to arm and tool ourselves with the correct knowledge so that we can make decisions that prolong our life.
And can I just say, people are putting in loads of questions. I am rapidly trying to copy and paste them so we can put as many questions as possible to you guys. So we are seeing your questions and we'll be asking them. So please do bear with us.
Cool. I suppose let me start it off. I suppose that one of the questions that I want to put to our guest is, what is the biggest factor? What is the most attributing factor to maybe you catching COVID? Is there one, or I don't know, is it just something that you might just get? Is it age, or is it a multiple of things that might make you be more susceptible to catching COVID for Blacks, Asians, and minorities? Dr. Krista?
So it depends what you mean by. So if you're talking about just catching the virus, anybody can catch the virus. We're all like anybody who's outside. If you touch surfaces, if you walk into a room where somebody who's been with COVID, it spreads by droplets, and we know that it spreads very, very, very rapidly and very easily. It's extremely contagious. It's very easy to catch. So if you're talking about catching COVID, we are all very susceptible to that, unless, of course, you've already caught COVID or you've had a vaccine and you've developed some kind of immunity. If you're talking about susceptibility to becoming severely ill with COVID, so the risk factors for that, the biggest one is age. So you've seen throughout the past year on the news constantly that the biggest factor is age. So people who are over 80 have got an extremely high risk of dying. People over 70, 60s, 50, that sort of age group, it just rises steadily, going up those groups. As your age increases, your chance of dying from COVID and becoming severely ill with COVID is significantly greater. The risk is thankfully substantially smaller for younger people and for children. Okay, so that's with regards to the risk of becoming very ill. There are a number of other factors that determine how likely you are to catch it. And obviously, if you're in a job where you spend a lot of time interacting with other people, if you work in healthcare, if you work in social care, all of those kinds of things. If you're a taxi driver, you have lots of people coming in and out, everybody's closed inside of their vehicle, particularly in winter, the windows are up. Those people are at higher risk of catching COVID. People in our communities are also at high risk of becoming ill. Again, as because Nadine has already mentioned, we have a lot of the risk factors we know for getting severe illness. So those are things like cardiovascular disease, things like hypertension, diabetes, being overweight. And there's a lot of overweight in this country across the board, across various ethnic groups. And all of those factors then combine together to make you a lot more likely to catch it. And then if you do catch it, to become very ill from it.
Thank you for that. Okay.
Ray, can we just address a question? Because I know there's a lot of people seeing doctors and professionals on here, and there's a lot of mistrust at the moment. And I just saw a question that came up, which is pretty important to address regarding whether or not you guys are receiving some kind of incentive or payment for actually being on here on Set the Trend. Can you just outline to let them know that, you know, you are here on your own dime, and the fact that you guys are here because you care about the community?
So, Nadine, okay, you go ahead.
Okay, I understand the concern around that, and I understand around the trust around that, but that's because we fail as a community because we don't support each other and we don't share information. So when you see African and Caribbean people together partnering to provide community-based social service function, I can understand why that's a bit strange and why you might think there are some other kind of incentives. No, the incentive is self-love, and the incentive is because we want us to be better, and we believe in self-determination as a society, and we believe that we should do more for ourselves. We believe fundamentally in self-reliance. That's why we're here. So there's no incentive. There's no it's just love. It's Saturday night and we're people that care deeply about our communities. I still live in Lewisham. I live in a traditional kind of Caribbean family where we live in multi-generational houses inside of each other's pockets. And if my mum gets COVID, she's gonna die. She has a 90% chance of dying because of her pre-existing health conditions and because of her age. I don't want my mum to die. I don't want anybody's mums to die. There are so many people around me that are just dropping dead from COVID, and that's unacceptable to me. And that's why a group of us has partnered together, because we experience the same thing in all of the communities that we live in, to try and do something a little bit different. This is about having a conversation, addressing issues and providing information that can help people make informed choices. If after this conversation you choose not to take the vaccine and you're dead, well, it's like, go, you know, that's on you. That's got nothing to do with us. All we're trying to do is provide the information so that we know that as members of a community, people trying to be responsible for the communities that we live in and for the people that we love, that we've done what we can. And it's really that simple.
Thanks a lot, Nadine. Dr. Atta, can I ask you a question, please?
Please do. Yeah.
And I collected some questions throughout my show. Some people put some questions in the show. They also put it on our feed that we have on our pages. And one of the questions was asked, if the Black, Asian, and the minority groups make up such a small percentage of the country, then why such a big push?
Why such a big push for the vaccine, you mean?
Yeah.
I think a bit like Nadine said, is about love for the community. I think certainly, I mean, I echo what she says, you know, in the sense that we're not being paid at all. I'm here because I want to be here. And
sorry, doctor. I mean, in terms of why is a big push for us to get the vaccine, not in terms of you. I think Nadine explained that.
I see what you mean. Okay,
So why do we matter so much? Why do the government want to spend? I think was it 21 million that they've said that they've paid out in advertising to kind of get the message across to us. Why are they so concerned about us as a community if we're just a small percentage?
I think so. I guess it goes back to what you were saying at the start about trust as well. So I think completely understand that as a community, we're going to be very distrustful. We're just going to be suspicious. It's like, actually, you know, all the years, and now you want to do something about this. So let's put that to one side, because let's put that to one side for now. But I think the truth is that if you look at the surveys, people, and as much as we have, there's no reason not to believe them, is that some time ago, about 72% of Black people and Black minority, specific Black people, said they will not take the vaccine. Now, we've been in this lockdown for ages now. And I think, in our communities, we are people that like to interact with each other. A bit like Nadine was saying, we're in each other's homes. We want to be together. We're social. And now we're in a situation where we can't do that. Now, for some people, some people in our community don't really believe the COVID in a way. Hopefully things would have changed. But obviously, if you see people dying, you will believe though. But there are some that don't. And so these things continue to happen and say, I don't believe that. But actually, if that mixing continues to happen, then more people are going to die. So, speaking for trying to understand what the government's motivations may be, is that actually the sense that if we're going to get back to normal, then we need to ensure that people are as protected as they can, so that they can then do this mixing that we really want to do and get back to being a social, getting back to being family again and enjoying each other's company. Does that make sense? I don't know if it does.
Yeah. Does it also mean that, if we didn't get, or a large majority of us didn't get vaccinated, does it mean that the virus has a better chance of thriving, of keeping alive? Okay. Is that one of the reasons also?
Yeah, I think in this case, you're probably heading towards herd immunity, which obviously you can discuss a bit about that as well. So
can you explain what herd immunity is for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you think about it, if you think about, say, a community of people, and there's this virus trying to sort of, cause havoc, with coronavirus, you don't have to think about it. If people are not protected, then it spreads really quickly, really rapidly, like coronavirus has done. And then you get the increased chances of death and disease and all the stuff that we've been seeing. But then if you get to this situation where, and it depends for different diseases, but if you get this where most of the community is protected, then that virus is a bit like when you think about fires and you have this place that's already burnt, then there's nowhere for the virus to go and it doesn't spread. So in effect, that's what herd immunity is supposed to be, that you have enough people in the community protected so that the virus doesn't spread and doesn't get transmitted as quickly as it would do if we're all completely fresh without.
And when you say enough people, a percentage, what type of percentage is that?
So we don't know exactly, as far as I understand, we don't know exactly what the number is for COVID, for coronavirus. But for most diseases, about people give it 50 to 80% range. I mean, Krista will correct me, but I think that's the kind of numbers we're looking at as well. That after a certain amount, the effect's even more than that. So it's almost like 2 + 2 = 10. If you get about 70% of people protected, then the protection is even more than that. So that's the kind of figures that I think most historically that we've been thinking about.
Cool, thanks, sir. Reggie, can we go to some of the questions? Can we just take 2, because I don't want to do 5 and 10 at a time because we'll probably forget and we won't.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, Michaela has a question. Why can people that currently have the virus have the vaccine at the same time?
So
yeah,
you can't have it when you're currently ill. So if you're currently ill with COVID, then no, it's not recommended you have the vaccine straight away. But if you have had COVID, it is still recommended that you do get vaccinated, because we don't know how long immunity from having the actual infection lasts. We think that it looks like it's at least 6 months, but it's still recommended to have the vaccine, to have a boost of even extra immunity on top of that. But you don't give a vaccine to somebody who is actively unwell with something at the same time.
Also, Tracy, who is a healthcare professional, funny enough, asks, why can't we have our antibody levels checked before having the vaccine, as the vaccine triggers an immune response in the body?
Well, I think it's down to that's probably just for practical reasons. So, I mean, some healthcare workers earlier on, the middle of last year, had their antibody levels checked. I had mine, they were negative. But just because you have got antibodies doesn't mean that you shouldn't still have the vaccine. If you've had antibodies in the past, all it tells you is that you've previously had COVID, but you should still get a vaccine so that you can top up your immunity on top of that.
Cool, thank you. So, okay. Maybe something that you can also clear up for us. I think when I first heard about COVID and going on, it appeared to me that everybody was saying that COVID was flu. Now I'm getting to understand that COVID actually is not flu. So can you give us a bit more clarity? Could Dr. Christo, Dr. If I go to Dr. Atta first, did you want to give us a clarification on whether COVID is actually flu?
Okay, so I'll say so. COVID, the virus that causes coronavirus. So yeah, well, COVID is actually coronavirus, and it's and it can give you the symptoms we all know about. I'll go into that in a bit more detail. We've had the flu with us for ages, so there are quite a few other viruses that cause the flu. So we think about influenza, and there are lots of other ones there that are around. The coronavirus has been around for a while, but for this particular variant, it's quite new. So this COVID-2, so it's a 2 separate viruses that have come together and made a super virus, if you will. And as a humanity, we've never actually encountered this in this way. So part of the reason is that, some people say I get flu-like symptoms, and it's quite a general thing. So, some people say it's just the flu. And, fair enough, you want to say that. But actually, the flu doesn't cause death to this way. The last time we had this sort of flu decimating the human race and causing so much problem was, I think, the Spanish flu early on last century, and that was the flu. But then because similar to this, as a human beings, we've never actually encountered this before. So the immune system was not prepared. So that's what makes coronavirus so deadly. It's new. We've not seen this, and as you can see, it's causing a lot of death. So you can call it the flu, but actually it's really, really bad. There's no joke about that. It's really, really bad because we've never seen it as a humanity, as a community before, And so it's as a humanity, which is why it's causing so much problem. Maybe not as bad as the other historical ones, but it's bad enough, as we've seen.
Thank you. Dr. Krista, I've got someone here asking, Marie Jones, if you have antibodies, why would you take the vaccine?
Yeah, I asked that already.
Oh, did you ask that?
I think we kind of covered that, yeah.
Yeah. I've got one here from Debs B. Can rapid testing allow large events to take place in the future?
I mean, I think that's going to be a political decision. I mean, the issue is there are two issues. People who are asymptomatic who can spread COVID, and then also what we call the sensitivity of those lateral flow, those really rapid tests. So the sensitivity of the test is how good is the test at picking up what's there. So if I do 100 swabs of noses of people that I know have got coronavirus, how many of those 100 will I pick up? And it's probably about half in the case of these lateral flow tests. So you will miss a fair number. It's better than doing nothing, but the question is, will it be good enough to allow people to get together in large enough numbers? I suspect, if I had to guess, I think unlikely. I think that will come to pass until a large proportion of the population has been vaccinated against COVID.
Fantastic.
Can I just ask, what is long COVID and how do you know if you've got it?
Right. So long COVID is, I think, the name that has come up for the more chronic symptoms that can arise after COVID infection. So chronic, we mean going on for weeks and months after the infection. Typically, what you'd expect with a virus, an infection like this, if you do recover, people get really unwell, you get fever, you chills, you have muscle aches, those types of symptoms, and then they settle fairly quickly after, most people sort of a week to 10 days. Some people have these symptoms going on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and the commonest things we've found are difficulty with their breathing, so your exercise tolerance. So people used to be running, walking, very active. They now find that they can't walk more than a few meters without becoming short of breath, or they feel really tired. They're sat on the couch all the time, or they feel very achy. So long COVID is the name that has been given to people who've developed these kinds of chronic symptoms following infection with COVID-19.
Okay. When we look at the trust, so let's take this back just a slight bit to what we was talking about trust. How, I mean, I suppose this is a hard one, but what I really want to get to is how can, I know we're doing platforms like this about trust. People have had the vaccine. In fact, there's someone on our panel that have had the vaccine, but I'll go to him later on. How can we instill more trust into our community in terms of how serious this is? And maybe I need to go back to Dr. Krista, because I know you've been working on the wards, because some people still believe that this virus actually doesn't exist in the format that people are saying. They don't believe it's as serious as how it is. Can you tell us about some of your experience of working on the ward face to face with some people who've come in, Black people who've come in with COVID?
Yes, absolutely. So just last weekend, actually, I was as a volunteer to assist the nurses. As you know, in intensive care, normally one nurse nurses one patient, but since COVID has happened, that has not been possible because we've just had such a massive increase in the number of ITU patients. So the intensive care nurses required a lot of help, and clinicians, doctors, dentists, all sorts of people have been having to go in to volunteer to assist. So last week, I was on the ward, and I walked into my bay, and I saw this lady. She was lying there, a Black woman. And I looked at her and I thought, well, she looks a bit young. So I went and I looked at the notes, and actually she was in her mid-30s. She was about my age. And she had been in intensive care between various hospitals, various transfers for different treatments, etc., since Boxing Day. Okay, so that's almost 2 months in intensive care. There was a picture there of her family, of her kids that she has not seen, who have not seen her for the past 2 months. and she's only just getting over that initial hurdle of all of the really, the tubes, the lines, the everything. So I spent the bulk of my time there just talking to this woman, and I spent so much time thinking, what is it that makes people think that this couldn't happen to them? Young woman, fit woman, small, no risk factors. She says to me, I have never spent a night in a hospital before any of this happened. Completely fit and well, and has been in hospital for 2 months. Thankfully, at least she's gotten over the first hurdle. The next hurdle is to get out of hospital and get back home, and then to get back to what she was like before. But I mean, it's heartbreaking. I've got young children like she has, and I'm thinking, it's by the grace of God that I'm here and she is, in that bed. It's terrible. It's really, 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 really terrible.
And depending on your age, what is the percentage of you surviving COVID? So 80s, we know that is the most high percentage.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to tell us a bit about that and go down maybe in 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s.
Okay, so there's lots of different ways that you can put those numbers. But if you're sort of over 80, if you were to catch COVID, the risk of dying is probably about 1 in 10. If you come down, the total population risk is probably about 1%. So that is 1 in 100. If you group everybody together, that is of dying from COVID. And that risk falls from about 10% or a little bit higher in the over 80s and falls gradually as you come down the age groups. So people in their sort of 30s, it's probably around 1 in 250 to 1 in 1,000, depending upon the data. So there's a full spectrum in between there.
Can I just chime in, just say there's a lot of information happening at the moment, and for those listening, you can go back and watch this as well, just to keep up and catch up via our YouTube page and also our website. And also, just to recap for anybody who's just joined, we have the esteemed Nadine Drummond. We also have Dr. Krista and also Dr. Atta. They are Cambridge University alumni and obviously part of the African Caribbean Society from Cambridge, which is the old boys and girls society. So they're here, trying to give as much information as possible. So please take this opportunity to ask questions and to listen.
Can we have a couple more questions from you, Reggie?
Yes, sure, no problemo. Let me get my pad. I've been trying to just copy and paste everybody's questions as quickly as I can. There's a hive of activity happening in all the chat rooms on YouTube and Facebook. Cass Rowena would like to know, why is the vaccine being pushed so much when normal people with healthy symptoms can use natural remedies? Is that a myth or...
Well, there's so many ways to look at it. So the vaccine is not just about protecting you as an individual. It's about protecting you as an individual, because you don't know if you're going to be that person who's going to be asymptomatic or relatively well, or if you're going to be one of those people who dies. And personally, I would not like to take that chance. But even if you're not just thinking about yourself, you're also thinking about your community, you're thinking about your family, you're thinking about your friends, and you're thinking about the wider society. So basically, in terms of coming back to the herd immunity that Atta was talking about, you basically have two routes to herd immunity. Either a large percentage of the population catches the virus, and that will lead to large numbers of people dying, or large numbers of people take the vaccine, they get immunity without catching the virus, and then those numbers of deaths come down quite substantially. So those are the two options. There isn't, unfortunately, a scenario where we're going to have nobody take the vaccine and nobody get the virus. That's not going to happen.
So in effect, the myths of people taking things like garlic and ginger and vitamin D as their replacement.
Marijuana put down there.
Yeah, but for the vaccine, like Grace said, vitamin D is the vaccine. And it comes back to a question which was asked by a very good friend of mine who said, we don't know what is in these vaccines. There are so many different vaccines. There are all different names produced by different scientific labs. and nobody knows what is in these vaccines in regards to the ingredients. When you bake a cake, you know you put flour, sugar, water, and so forth. Well, I don't know if you put water, but yeah, we don't know what is going into this vaccine, and we're taking it.
Dr. Ato?
Well, okay, yeah, I'll let that.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'll try. Chris will sort of correct me if I say anything out of order. I'm sure they did. I think what I'll say is important to acknowledge that there's a lot out there that we don't know about. I think, the previous answer, I was thinking that it's important. We come because we're here because we care. But the truth is, like you said, most people who catch COVID will not die. Let's be frank about that. They will not die. And so, you look at the numbers, you think it's only 1% of the population. But I think it's important that we're truthful for that. Those 1% are actually real people with real families, with real children. And that's why it is important. No, it's not, you can step back and say, yeah, only 1% will probably have severe COVID and die. But in a sense, that's not okay. That each one, that is what a real person, which is why we have to look at everything. So I think someone's mentioned about vitamin D. I think the truth is vitamin D is one of those important vitamins. I mean, if you look into a lot of research and a lot of various things, it does a lot of good stuff. And, but when it comes to the things that can protect you in where we're in now, though, for now, there is no evidence. It doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do because, we know that for a lot of Black people, people with dark skin, our vitamin levels are low. And it may, and we know in lots of other, I'm a children's tummy doctor, so I know for my specialty, gastroenterology, low vitamin D levels are probably have a role to play, but they're not the whole picture. Like I don't give my patients vitamin D alone and say you're cured. That's not how it works. It probably has a role, but again, there's no evidence it cures you or even stops, it stops what we're trying to do here. It's important to do. So I'll encourage everyone who's listening, go and get your vitamin D, get vitamin D pills, get into the sun if you can. That's really important, but that's not going to help you with COVID, really, what we're looking at there. And so, and all those other natural remedies, there's no real evidence for those as well. Mm-hmm. For now, the other question they asked is, we don't know what's in the vaccine. I think it's fair to say we do. And the question will become, actually, do we trust what's in the vaccine? And this is where I guess, we hopefully look like a lot of people who are listening to this. We've looked at the data. We have colleagues who've looked at the data as well. Though some of us have been in the trials as well. I've taken the vaccine myself, even though I had my own doubts as well. But we know what's in them as well. So I think that bit's not quite true. We know what's in the vaccine. There are lots of other ones out there, but the ones
Nadine,
in the market,
I don't know. So Nadine, where can we go to find out a list of ingredients in the various vaccines?
I'll come to that in just a second, but I'm going to say, even though if it's only 1% of the population that dies, we die at 14 times the rate of white English people in this country. So the stats that are being quoted aren't always relevant to us because we have the highest morbidity, we have the highest death rate. And I think that just to touch on herd immunity again, if you live in Hertfordshire or Sussex or a place that has a low kind of African and Caribbean footprint, and 80% of the people there take the vaccine, they've developed herd immunity. So there won't be a mini kind of pandemic or an outbreak in that area. So you might be safe. Where we live in our communities in Lambeth, Southwark, Lewisham, and I'm sure there are other places as well, Croydon. If nobody takes the vaccine in our communities, the pandemic will circle for years until we develop herd immunity, which means a significant of the proportion of the population will die. And that's the only way we're going to get immunity. And so if you can imagine that and think about that in terms of the death toll, that the people in those areas that have been vaccinated, if you might be the 1 or 2 Black families that live there, then you'll be all right as long as you don't come to where the rest of us live. But if you live where the rest of us live, then what's going to happen is if we don't get vaccinated, then we won't develop herd immunity and we'll just be COVID prone until we develop herd immunity through catching COVID and through at least 4 times of many of us dying from the general population. So in terms of what's included in the vaccine, on the ticker running along the bottom of your screen, Krista actually prepared some notes that I put into the banners earlier, which says what's in the vaccine. And based on what has been reported, I can tell you what isn't in the vaccine, a microchip. I can also tell you that there's no embryonic material from fetuses in the vaccine, which I know were some concerns. But again, this is just what's being reported. But if you keep watching the ticker, that's going to come across the screen shortly. But Kristen may have more information.
So Nadine, you're a journalist. Can you tell me why our people seem to be so fixated on believing the gospel word of the WhatsApp?
I think that as people of African descent, as Black people, we've been grossly mistreated for centuries. And when we're looking at the media has demonized us and has reported on us unfairly and haven't always told the whole truth. And historically, we've been experimented on, and we still face gross mistreatment and injustices when we access healthcare services now. There was a report that came out last year that said that Black women in England are 4 to 5 times more likely to die in childbirth than any other group of women. And that's higher than the statistic in the United States. In the United States, it's like 3 to 4 Black women die in kind of childbirth. And so I think that the concerns are legitimate and they have to be acknowledged. But I think that because of the way that we've been treated, sometimes it's easier to always believe the more negative things. And I understand that because I don't particularly trust very much that's coming from the government either. But I have to put that aside. And
is that not where the problem is, though? Is that not where one of our biggest problems is because we do not, we've had, this government doesn't really focus on Black people. Let's just put that straight. Anything that comes out, we're always an afterthought. I don't really think that they really think that we can do much. We're only 3 million people out of 60 odd, 70 million people in the whole country. They can abuse us in terms of words that they can say and actions that they do. And now they want us to now believe them. Now they want us to believe what they say. And I think a lot of people would be asking, well, why? Why should I? Your actions over the past years, going back, I don't know, 50, 60 years and further, has always been to not really care about the lives of Black people. So why do you care so much now?
Do they? I mean, Boris, Preeti, and Kemi, do they? I'm not really sure that they do. But I think that what we need to focus on is how we're going to make it through this and what we can do to survive, because the data says, and these are facts, that we die at 4 times the rate and we will continue to die if we don't develop herd immunity. So I'm not really watching Boris, Kemi, and Preeti. They're watching themselves. And they'll watch me, right? Yeah. So we need to figure out a way of how we're going to survive this. And so this is why we've come together to provide different types of information and ask questions, because for me, trust becomes irrelevant, because if we don't develop herd immunity, this is a scientific fact for any pandemic or any virus which is decimating any population around the world, whether it's polio, influenza, yellow fever,
Ebola.
Whatever it is. Is there a vaccine for Ebola? I don't think so. Right? There is a vaccine for Ebola. Okay. So if we don't focus on how we're going to survive it, large members of our communities will not make it. So I understand the trust issues. I live with them. I'm afraid to take the vaccine. I'm actually scared, and I've just decided that when my time comes, I'm going to squint my eye and I'm going to take it and just hope that I don't develop any other conditions down the road, because I'm trying not to die right now.
Can I just pause you there? There's a question right in front of us from Tigist Tefere. How are the doctors so sure the vaccine is safe and works when there isn't enough evidence? It's only just got rolled out and we don't know the impact on Black, minority and ethnic groups in 5 or 10 years' time.
Well, I mean, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say that, you know what, you're right. Actually, we have no idea what's going to happen in 5 or 10 years. So we'll be frank about that. Be frank about that. However, vaccines have been around for a long time. We know that actually the large is one of the because of the way all the companies and the world came together, the scientific community came together to develop this vaccine. All the data is out there if you want it. You know, obviously lost in numbers, but it's all out there, and it was all done above board. And so, how many thousands of people that were involved, we know that it is safe compared to other vaccines, and we know that it does work. It does work in terms of reducing the risk of severe illness. Now, what's going to happen in 5 or 10 years, we don't know. We're going to be frank about that. But given what we know, I think, it's a decision that we have to make. And like you said, it's that, vibes that we're not forcing anyone here to take the vaccine, but we're saying that actually, let's give you the information. So, we don't know what's there 5, 10 years. I'm frank about, I completely agree with that. But actually what we do know now is more than safe enough and will get us to that herd immunity that we need to get to protect ourselves and our communities.
And can you confirm?
Yeah, I mean, I'd just like to add to that, from previous vaccines, that we don't have any good reason necessarily to think that there will be long-term effects that will crop up in 5, 10 years time after taking the vaccine. What goes into you in the vaccine that causes your body to produce the immune response, that is what is enduring and will protect you if you were to encounter the virus in real life. That's what stays. But what's in the actual vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine contains this little bit of thing called RNA that degrades after a few days, so that doesn't stick with you and stay on for years and years. So whilst it's true that we don't have the long-term data because we're fixing the problem whilst we're in it, okay, we can't wait for 10 years to pass and millions of people die, because then what would have been the point? But the absence of data there doesn't mean that we don't have sufficient confidence based on previous vaccines and previous evidence to think that there shouldn't be any long-term problems.
We've just had 30 minutes. Sorry, Ray, can I just chime in? We've had 30 minutes of discussion so far, and I just wanted to get an idea of where we're at in regards to our audience, because we're here giving the audience information. And so if you are in the chat at the moment, based on what you've heard so far, just put an N or a Y in the chat whether or not you will take the vaccine. It's an unscientific straw poll so far on what you've heard from our professionals, Y or N, whether or not you will be taking the vaccine. And then it'd be good to see how people react, or if their minds have changed later on, in the discussion.
Thanks for that.
Can I just add to the data point? Is it okay if I add to the data point? So there's lots of talk sometimes, perhaps not here, but I've heard before, that people are concerned that there wasn't any data on Black people, or there were not any trials. Part of that is because we in this country didn't volunteer for trials, and I didn't volunteer either, and I would not have volunteered for a trial anyway, so I'm not pointing fingers. But there were trials that were done quite extensively on Black people in South Africa and in Brazil, so the data for Black people does exist, but it just doesn't exist here.
All right, thanks a lot. Just want to go to a quick question on the back of the previous question. Debs B says, wow, so if women are hoping to have children later on in life, there's no accountability from the government if this vaccine impacts fertility later on?
So, I mean, first thing...
And Christine, and does it? I mean, what some people have said to me as well, if they're in their 30s, they're in their late 20s, they're thinking about having a baby, will them having this vaccine, will that be an issue in them actually, when they get pregnant? Will it have side effects on that? Is that something that you can comment on?
So in terms of affecting fertility, we have no reason to believe, on the basis of how this vaccine works, based on how immunity works, to think that it'll have any long-term effect on fertility. If you think most of your vaccination happens when you're a child, right? You get your parents take you along for your vaccination, and we've not seen any impact of that on fertility in women as they've grown older in people who've been vaccinated. So there's no reason to believe that would happen. Yes, obviously we'll be able to prove that when we've gathered the data down the road, and we'll be able to put it down in black and white in front of people. But there's no mechanism by which anyone thinks that could happen, and there is no precedent beforehand to suggest that that is likely to happen, to be a problem for women with regards to their fertility.
Thanks. East, I do want to go to you, but maybe we can take this as an opportunity. You're you're the only person on this panel that's had the vaccine.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Well, apart from the doctors.
Oh yeah, the doctors.
you
yeah.
both had it as
Somebody
well. Yeah?
did ask actually if you guys have taken the vaccine.
That was-
I'm
I'll
going to
try,
come back to the
you know.
doctors as well then. East, you were sick. When was it? October? You went to hospital?
September, late September, early October with COVID.
And you was in there how long again?
In hospital for 4 weeks.
4 weeks, ventilator?
3 weeks ventilator, 1 week in the ward, recovering. When I got the letter to say, you know, you're ready to take the vaccine, I never hesitated. I just said, no, I need to take it. I need to be able to hug my family. I need to be able to hug the people around me. You know, it's really hard. You know, I haven't seen my parents for at least a year. You know, I speak to them on the phone and FaceTime, you know, but I really like to go around there and see them and give them a hug. And I haven't had an opportunity to do that. So I never hesitated with the vaccine. But, you know, I want to ask a question about the vaccine.
But hold on. I haven't finished with you yet.
Oh, yeah.
So you rocked up, you got the letter, you rocked up to the local, was it a GP?
Local GP.
GP. They said, show me your best arm.
Yeah, it's funny you said.
So when you took the vaccine, then what happened? Did you have any side effects?
Well, first of all, I made a mistake. I didn't know this, yeah. And you know, you can shoot me down if you want. They said to me, right arm or left arm. I didn't know what it meant. I just said, your right arm. Yeah, but I'm right-handed. You're supposed to take it in the opposite. Yeah, but I took it in my right hand. So right now, I think this is the most I can do with my arm. It's very tender. I can't move it. It's like, oh my gosh, you know. But went in there, sat on the chair, and she said, right arm, left arm. I said right. She said, okay. Put the needle in. That was it. Over and done with. I went home. I was fine. The next day, I had a bit of a fever, a bit of a temperature. Still got a little bit of it today. I think this is just like day 2. But yeah, I'm feeling good. And no, you know, I've still got all my things. Nothing else is growing. I ain't got an extra pair of ears or anything. So yeah, it's all good. And I would advise anyone who can take it to take it.
Take it. So Dr. Krista, how was your experience when you, I mean, so you got offered it because you're frontline, you're working on the front line. Okay, so how was the experience for you?
Well, I mean, I took my chance to get it, literally. I mean, I was checking my emails every 2 seconds to see when I could book to get my appointment. That's how much I wanted to get mine sorted. And in terms of side effects, I had a sore arm in exactly the same way, and I think it probably lasted about a couple of days. I had it in my right-handed. I had it in my left arm. So yeah, it was a little bit sore when I moved it and when I lay down on that left side, but those are the only symptoms that I had. I do know that people who've had COVID beforehand tend to report more in the way of side effects after having had the vaccine. But I just had a sore arm, that was it.
And somebody just asked panel, why are people losing movement in there? To be fair, I've had BCG, just like when you had your BCG, your arm was hurting, yellow fever, your arm was hurting. So I think that's kind of like a side of that's.
It's due to your body is like the immune response happening there causes a little bit of inflammation and pain. So it's sore. So the arm can move, the muscle works normally, but it's just a little bit sore, and that settles after a few days.
A question for the doctors.
Hold on one sec, East. I just want to hear from Dr. Atta about his experience, and then.
Yeah, so I was probably a bit different from Krista, you know, in the sense that when the vaccine was announced, I didn't jump up or down. I didn't go on the computer. I just thought, okay, let's. I should get this, but yeah. So we're just that in between, and I can't explain why. You know, it's for me. There's not a lack of trust, sort of thing. You know, my experience as a black man was probably quite different. I grew up in Nigeria, really blessed with the family that sent me to great education, that sort of stuff. But I just thought, you know what, I'm not sure about this, if I'm completely honest. I'm not sure about this. And just because it was new. But then, you know, you think about it, you think you have to go through the information because, you know, you've got to see what's happening around you. And then you've got to look and say, actually, has this been done above board? So I looked into the information, spoke to my wife about it. We talked about it. And then actually, so I thought it's the right thing to do. And so It wasn't immediately. Maybe about 2 or 3 when the official email came from my trust and said book up. Then I said, okay, I better do this now, and so I did. And I'm really glad I did. And in terms of the side effects, I had the arm pain straight away. But then the next day I had some. I wasn't feeling quite right. No temperatures at all. I just thought, hang on a second. I hope I haven't caught COVID or anything like that. But then I remembered that I actually had taken the vaccine, so I thought, okay, it's probably that. So the kind of chills and this typical side effects, and then I was fine. So that was my experience.
Thank you. Sorry, East, you had a question to pose.
Doctors, can you confirm that all 3 vaccines are of the same quality, the same standard? There isn't one that's better than the other, and if you get offered one, you should take it. So is the Pfizer one as good as the Oxford one and the Moderna one?
So there was, the data. So what I start from is that if you told people that they were going to get vaccines that will stop serious illness by sort of 50% or 56%, they would have chopped your arm off really before the whole thing started. Yet we're seeing numbers that are incredibly high, which will be part of the reason I think why some people are just a bit distrustful, thinking really, but it's really, really that good. So all 3 of them have really, really good rates at stopping and reducing the risk of severe COVID and risk of dying. It doesn't stop you from catching the illness, but it just means that when your body encounters it, that then you're much likely to fight stuff in a more efficient way without getting really, really sick from it. And all 3, the 2 are licensed. I think one has come online quite recently, but all 3 of them are just as good as each other.
Okay.
Question I want to ask. Someone posed a question. They said to me, if I could ask you, the least that they should do, if they want to give us the vaccine or offer us the vaccine, the least they should do is maybe a full body test to see how fit we are to take the vaccine, and if we have any deficiencies that we don't know of that might give us adverse effects. Is that a concern that we should have, or I suppose it is a concern, but is it a high percentage or a small percentage?
I think you have to take a practical approach to that. I mean, you're trying to vaccinate in this country and all over the world millions and billions of people. So it wouldn't be practical to give everybody a physical exam before giving them the vaccine. But I think also people have to look at, it's not just the trial data that, the beginning of December, when that was all we had, that was very, very relevant. But now you've had, today we've had, 17.2 million people in this country have had a dose of the vaccine already. 70 something million people in the United States have already had a dose of one of these vaccines, Pfizer, Moderna there, Pfizer or AstraZeneca here, and also another probably 20 million or so in Europe. So if you have, over 100 million people all over the world who've already had the vaccine, the probability or the chance that, you as some individual are going to have a significant problem, we know is very, very, very low, because we're not just looking at the trial data anymore. There's constant gathering of data everywhere in all of these countries, here in the United Kingdom, in the United States, all across Europe, on everybody who's getting side effects. Individuals can report them. You can report them online. Doctors, if people come into hospital who've had side effects from vaccines, you have what we call a yellow card system. So you go onto it's electronic now, it used to be paper back in the day, and you report the side effects so that we know all of this information is being gathered. So millions of people have had it. So we know that the chances of something really bad happening to somebody are extremely low.
Cool.
Can I say a story?
Sorry, Doctor.
No, go ahead. No, it's nothing. So my wife was in a cab, and she was talking to this guy who was black as well, I think, or I forget. And he said, "You know what? I might get the vaccine, but I'm not going to be first in line." And then he was like, "Okay, now there's 70 million people that have got the vaccine now. You can't really use that as an excuse anymore. So if you're waiting because of that, just it's really safe." Like, just to echo what Chris is saying, it's really there's enough data now that say that actually this side effects you're worried about are not quite there.
And whilst we're there, can I just chime in on my unscientific poll? Any statisticians out there, please do not, have a go at me. I did use the old column method, which is by striking in the yes and
Reggie,
no
don't give the
columns.
answer. Just ask them to do it more, because I think we've got a bit more time. So we'd like to see, as it goes on, how many people are doing it. So maybe you could ask a question.
Well,
again.
I'd like to know if the percentage changes.
Exactly.
Actually.
That's.
It'd be
I was just about to say that,
interesting
Ray. Ray, leave it to the mathematicians, mate. Basically, we judging on I've counted up my columns. I've worked out the percentages. This is the first time I've actually used this system since Pythagorean theorem and leaving school. So we have got roughly 80% of people saying no, they will not take the vaccine, compared to 20% saying yes, they will. So I will reset my columns, and later on when we ask the poll again.
So maybe this is a question to them as well, which Maydeen just placed, and it's standing and it's right there. Just to be devil's advocate, she says, I'd like to ask, why are so many people against taking the COVID vaccine, but yet so many people have taken vaccines required for traveling overseas, be it yellow fever, typhoid, tetanus, polio, hepatitis A, rabies, etc., to mention but a few, and didn't question what was in it. And I'd like to put my hand up, because I've done that. And I didn't ask what was in the vaccine. I just took it. I wanted to get out and I wanted to travel. What's so different about now?
Bill Gates, 5G.
I think it's just everybody is really anxious, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's been a horrible year. Everybody's stressed. Everybody's worried. Everybody's anxious. I think if we had this solution, March, April time, when we were at the height of it and people remembered what it was like to have a normal life, and there was all of the fear of this thing was really there, I think we wouldn't be seeing this. I mean, it's a guess, but I don't think we'd be seeing this degree of vaccine hesitancy if we had this solution back then. I think people have had a year, people are stressed, they're anxious, and also that urgency and that sense of this new normal has become just too normal for everybody, and people have kind of forgotten what it's like to be able to go and see your relatives and to go and I'm from Trinidad. I literally cannot wait to get back on a plane and get back home, and I'm 99% sure my feet will not touch the soil, they will not let me back in unless I have had a COVID vaccine. So I think that's a big part of it.
And also the fact that it took normal vaccines take about 15 years. It took about 10-15 years, and this came about in a few months. So it's part of that trust thing that actually it just seems like like magic. So it's like actually what's really going on there. But again, there's good evidence that it was done above board, and we can explain that if people want to know more as well.
Can I just ask, is there a list of the benefits that outweigh what might be, something that happens tragically? Is there a list? And what is the benefits? Let me rewind. What is the benefit of taking the vaccine weighed against not taking it?
Yeah, is there a SWOT analysis?
Yeah.
Well, the benefits of taking it are that you do not catch COVID. That is the benefits of taking the vaccine. There is no other benefit from the vaccine, is that you do not catch, I shouldn't say do not, because it's not 100% and no vaccine is 100%, but you will substantially reduce your risks of catching COVID. And if you do catch it, your symptoms will not be as severe. So you will not hopefully end up in hospital for a very long time. You will not end up with long COVID. And most importantly, you are very, very, very unlikely to die. That is the big advantage. Yes.
So can I be clear? Even if you take the vaccine, you're still likely to get COVID? Not
likely.
Right.
It is possible. It is very unlikely, but it is not 100%.
So, right, okay. Dr. Christa, I've heard, I've heard that the vaccine, even when you take it, it's probably only going to be valid in your body for 3 months, and after 3 months, you may get COVID again. So, is the vaccine something we have to be taking more than once a year, or is it? How does it work out? Because we know we have the flu vaccine, but even when you get the flu vaccine, you can get flu more than once a year. Is this the same kind of thing, or is it completely different?
Okay, so I think you're asking, those are two different questions in one. So the flu situation is that the flu virus changes itself. So every year they make a slightly different version. anticipating what they think is going to be the most dominant strain of the flu around at the time, and people are given that vaccine in advance of the flu season. Okay, and the typical efficacy, or we talked about efficacy before, how good is the vaccine at reducing flu, is usually around sort of 50 to 70%. Okay, in terms of how long you're going to be immune after you've had the vaccine, that data is still being gathered. Okay, remember, these vaccines are new, they've just been made, but we do anticipate that hopefully it'll be for at least a year. It could possibly be even longer. There are some vaccines, so like yellow fever, I don't know if you've ever had a yellow fever vaccine. I'm from Trinidad, so I've had it, of course. Yellow fever, you take, that's just once. Okay, now flu you have to take every year because the virus changes, and we see there have been different strains of COVID, etc. So it might be that we have to take another one for that reason if it becomes a seasonal virus. That is a separate issue to how long does this immunity from this vaccine last, and that information is still being gathered because the people who have been in the trials, etc., are still being followed up. They're still providing blood samples to see how long are these antibodies still in the blood after having had the vaccine.
Okay, can I ask a question? And I don't know the answer to it, although I think I know the answer to it, and I want to ask it. At the top of the tree, so the people who are making the decisions on the vaccine, how many of them are people of color?
You mean who are you talking about? The drug companies, the government?
In terms of us having a vested interest, is there someone on the table that's talking from a black perspective, or is it just white males or females making a decision on behalf of black people, or saying that this is it? It's just one of the questions that have been asked, and I just kind of like to know what that round table of the head decision makers look like.
Right. I can't answer that question. I mean, you know who's in the government because you see them on the news. With regards to who regulates all drugs.
Public health or SAGE?
Right, so I'm coming to that. So who regulates drugs and medical devices? So it's this organization called the MRHA, and I could not tell you the ethnic makeup of that group, but their job is not just this new vaccine, it's every other drug everybody has been taking in this country, and every other medical device that we've been using in hospitals when you come for the whole time. So it's not, they didn't just get a whole new brief since the pandemic started. This is work that has been ongoing for every single drug that is licensed to be approved to be used in the United Kingdom.
There's a specific organization that looks in the UK, a body that looks at the vaccines. It's called the Joint. I'm just looking on the internet. It's called the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization, and on the government website you can see who the people are there. It's difficult from names to find out what the skin colors are, but yeah. So I don't know what the answer to that is as well. So, but there's people that look at the data and then independently will try and make a recommendation. Now, of course, because of the kind of times we're living in, and there's a government that has all issues. They've done a lot of missteps. I'm a bit of an optimistic person. I always like to give people the benefit of the doubt. However, I think so they all talk to each other and they're trying to make decisions. But I think I do take your point that it's important for a lot of the 80%ers who are in the audience who sort of believe that maybe one of the reasons thinking that they're not sure that people are working in their best interest. But then if they don't believe them, I think a bit like what Nadine and Mr. Eastman was saying, EastEnders, that look at the people who have got it close to you, that there's something about representativeness, that when you've seen someone who has this and what can happen from it, it is real. And I think that should probably count more than everything else that, rightly speaking, is probably noise. Not noise in a bad way, but for this should probably be seen as probably not, should be the most important thing, I think.
A question. My brothers and sisters in the Caribbean and Africa, how are they with the COVID take up? Is there hesitancy out there?
It's in Nigeria. I can speak. Oh, go on, Krista.
No, go ahead, answer. You answer. You can answer.
No,
I
was just going to say, but yeah, I speak for Nigeria anyway. Then by Nigeria, I probably mean Lagos, which is where my folks live as well. It's a big problem. And, compared to, it's a sort of thing that, the first wave, we tried to do the whole lockdown, but then the economy was really battered and probably still is. It was opened up. But, a lot of people are trying to do their best, but people have to live because of the large amounts of poverty. But this sort of disease is not even affecting just the poor people anymore. It's actually affecting middle and upper class people. And you hear of people actually who are from these well-to-do areas who are dying from this disease as well. Sort of tracking numbers are not as perfect as say the UK, because we're quite a big country, 180 million plus. But it is a big problem. It is a big problem there. And of course, it comes to the whole vaccine ethics thing, that what's going to happen if all the rich countries buy it up, and then the rest of us are there left to struggle. So a lot of stuff going about there, but it's a big problem.
Well, I heard the government saying that they were going to give their surplus vaccine stock to countries who are less developed or lower economic countries. From an African perspective, I just came back from Sierra Leone, and it was literally null and void. The numbers were relatively low, but as I left, it was on the increase. Somebody would like to know, you as doctors yourselves, are you part of a community of doctors who look into how things affect black people in particular, or is it a very general thing?
I'm not sure I understood the second part of the question.
Right. Are you, as doctors, part of a body or community or sort of like group, medical group, that specifically looks at things that affect black people in regards to the COVID and the vaccine and so forth? Is there a kind of like medical journal that is shared by black doctors from around the globe?
No, is my short answer to that.
Okay.
Okay.
And can I just add to that that for Dr. Chris and Dr. Akhtar, a doctor is a doctor is a doctor. One of their oaths is to do no harm, and being here is an extension of that, to actually try to get to the root of some of the problems that they're having to deal with in their hospitals on a daily or weekly basis. And I don't think belonging to a black medical organization that deals specifically with issues specifically for black people in any way, shape or form reduces their impact in the National Health Service or their desire to be here and provide information for people to make informed choices.
This has been quite an hour. I think I've learned a bit more today about that. I'd like to know, before we end, Reggie, can we ask that question again? I just still want to get some people's views.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, big up to all those who've been sending in questions. It has been frantic in there in the chat rooms, both on YouTube and on Facebook. You guys have been amazing in regards to the information, and I think that has been reciprocated by the number of people asking more information. And you know, there hasn't been that kind of like, no, you're not talking sense type thing. So, you know, the good thing is that majority of people, you know, do understand what you are saying and are asking more questions in turn. So if you think that you will take the vaccine, then please put a Y. If you think that if you will not take the vaccine, please put a no. So if you think that you're going to take the vaccine, put a Y. And if not, then put down an N for no. I'm going to just get my pen and an extra piece of paper because I have a feeling I'm going to be filling up a lot of columns.
Whilst people are doing that, I'd like to, if I may, add a couple of extra points. One of which is vaccine equity, which was touched upon earlier. And for us in Western developed countries, we have access to the vaccine, and people in most other countries in Africa and the Caribbean don't. So while we're here debating about whether or not we're going to take the vaccine, there are people that don't even have the choice. And when you work globally, or you realize that your loved ones in the Caribbean or in Africa won't even have the choice, it's for me is actually quite heartbreaking. And something else that Reggie touched upon as well when he said he just returned from Sierra Leone, but the rate of infection, of COVID-19 infection, is increasing. You know, when we're talking about being responsible to our communities, local and broader communities, if you haven't had the vaccine, what gives you the right to get on any plane and go to Africa or go to the Caribbean and infect populations that don't have the medical infrastructure, that don't always have access to running water, and don't even have access to the vaccine. I think that we need to consider thinking a lot more broadly about the impacts, not just within our families or locally, but I think globally as well. Because if you're looking at what's happening in tourist industries like Jamaica, like Barbados, like even Trinidad Carnival was cancelled this year, as a result of these pandemics, these countries economically cannot sustain the pressure. And that has tremendous effects on crime and violence against women in particular. And so I think that it's really good for us to look at ourselves as individuals, but I also think that we need to think outside the box as well, because the actions that we take affect us, but they also have global ramifications, because so many of us have links outside of the UK. And somebody that posed the question to me whether or not I think we must take the vaccine. No, it's your choice if you don't take the vaccine, but I just think people need to be very clear about what that decision means. In our communities in Croydon, Lewisham, Lambeth and Southwark, we will not be able to develop herd immunity. If we do not develop herd immunity, we will have a pandemic in our borough for years until we all get it, and then until whoever unfortunately drops out. And that is the stark reality that I think that hasn't been presented before.
You have to think about. In fact, I mean that to me is a very strong argument, actually, because I know how scared Jamaica is of catching it full blown, and I think that everybody thinks that all the other countries are doing fine, like everything's fine, everything's going well. And I know, like my hometown, like my home country, Jamaica, they do not want to have this going on. And I mean, if it gets as worse as bad as what we're doing, there's going to be a lot of people in Jamaica die. They haven't got the infrastructure. They haven't got the hospitals. They haven't got the doctors. They haven't got any infrastructure that can cope with that, which is why they're so scared, and is why, especially Barbados, St. Lucia, they just shut their borders, full stop, and they don't want us in there. And I think that is definitely something for some people to consider when they're talking about whether or not they should get it or not. And it's, and it's, a lot of it is about you, but a lot of it is being selfish, and we're not considering other people.
I do believe that India is making lots of vaccines and sending it to the Caribbean.
India, China's making. So you've got China making a vaccine, you've got India making a vaccine, you've got Russia making a vaccine. Are all these vaccines okay?
Doctor?
So that is, we need to see the data. Okay, so the data needs to be published, it needs to be reviewed, and a decision will be taken by, the MHRA, whether or not these vaccines are considered to be safe enough, whether they're satisfied that the data suggests that both they're safe enough and also effective enough to be able to be used in the UK population. There is a very robust system for evaluating new medicines, new vaccines, new drugs, and I think that people should trust in those systems. So the answer to that question is that we will see, and we will see whether or not these bodies are satisfied that the data produced by these other places is satisfactory and therefore allows these to be used here.
And thinking about China, New Zealand, Australia, they didn't really use the vaccine.
Not yet.
And they seem to be okay.
Not yet. I think that really is the important thing. I think when you look at countries like New Zealand, it's a small, relatively isolated place with a small population, lots of people spread out in a sort of a rural kind of living. It's not very densely populated. The New Zealand border has been closed. They have kept the COVID out. Everybody coming into the country has had to quarantine. You have to be tested in and out. And despite having done that, you will have seen over the past year, every few months, the COVID pops up and it rears its head again, as it did a few weeks, last week, I think there was another lockdown in Auckland again. So they're going to have to remain like that until such time that the vaccines come in. And Australia is starting their vaccination program this week. China is vaccinating people, albeit not at the rate at which is, you know, they've got a massive population, so I don't know why it's happening so slowly there. So it's not yet. There really is only one way out of this problem without large numbers of people dying. If you want to have your life back to normal, if you want to see people, if you don't want to have to socially distance, a large percentage of the population is going to need to be vaccinated. The alternative is that people will get COVID.
Right. We got a few minutes left. I want to leave the last words to you guys. Dr. Atta, if there's one thing that you could say right now as a closing sentence, as a closing word, as a closing voice, where would you pitch for people to be vaccinated or not, or to listen to the information? How would you close your argument?
I would say, the trust thing is real. The trust thing for the government and all the experiences are real, but don't let that be an excuse not to do what's right for yourselves and for your community. I think it's important to look into the information, talk to people you trust. Maybe we're not the ones if it's still 80-20, but talk to people, and if anything, just talk to other people who have loved ones who've passed away from COVID. I'm not going to lie. I think the thing is that not everyone will die, but everyone that does die is grief for one family member, and it could be you. So I'm not the sort of person that wants to use fear to move you to do anything. So that's not the point at all. But the thing is that we have a way out of where we are right now. We've all been suffering, black and white. We've all been suffering of where we are now, and this is a way out. It is safe. It makes sense to actually look into it and then do what's right, not just for ourselves, but for our communities and those we love.
Thank you. Dr. Krista.
I mean, I would second that. I will say that you need to think about, what do you value? What is most important in your life? You value yourself, your own life, you value your family, you value being able to interact, see people, you want to do things that you've previously enjoyed. And the way to go about doing that, the way to protect yourself, most importantly, the way to protect other more vulnerable people in your community is to get vaccinated. So I think there's a very, 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 very strong need for us. I think to get over this hurdle of, yes, there have been a lot of historical reasons. Yes, why people don't trust the government, they don't trust the healthcare systems, they maybe don't even trust healthcare professionals. But this is not taking the vaccine is an own goal. We need to get over that hurdle. We need to get out there and we need to protect ourselves and protect our families and our wider community.
Thank you. Nadine?
I think that as African and Caribbean people, we have survived the Middle Passage, slavery, imperialism, colonialism, and Windrush in this country. And I think that the historical contributions that we've made wherever we were taken or wherever we ended up have been legendary. And my fear is that the decision not to take the vaccine will erode a lot of the language we've developed in this country. We've revolutionized language in this country: music, art, drama, sport, government, every profession in this country at every level. And when we have a pandemic or a health issue that decimates parts of our community, particularly old people, we lose our culture, we lose our connection to back home. When we drop out and we leave our children or our brothers or our sisters, our family structures become eroded, and we need to have strong families in order to have strong communities to survive in this country. And I think that in the communities that we live in, which are majority kind of African and Caribbean in London boroughs, I think that we underestimate what we can lose. And so for me, I'm looking at future, I'm looking at legacy, I'm looking at 100 years from now for people to be able to have survived and still continue to resist. Because being in this country is about resistance as much as it is about living and loving and enjoying the joy of the cold until we get to go on the plane again. And so for me, I just think that just make an informed choice. And if the vaccine isn't for you, then the vaccine isn't for you. But just be aware of the weight of what that decision means, because you're not that one black person living in Hertfordshire where all of the white people have taken the vaccine. So herd immunity is where you are. You're going to be fine. But if you live in black communities, we are not going to be fine. And I don't want a stage to come in another year where COVID isn't really anywhere else, but it's just where we are. And if it's just where we are, based on Boris, Preeti and Kemi's behavior of late and their treatment of us of late, what do you think is going to happen? I just think that we just need to be aware of the weight of any decisions that we make going forward.
If people need some more information, some more guidance, some more knowledge, how can they get in touch with you guys, or is there somewhere that they can go?
Sure. So you can find us on all of our links. It's Kuracast. We'll post. Afua is posting on Facebook. Izzy is posting on Instagram. But what we have done with the help of Dr. Krista and Dr. Atta is we've collated lists of easy to access medical journals that you can go to distill your own information. So you're not reliant on us, you're not reliant on the media or the government. You can go and review the data yourself and look at what it means to you. Sadly, in this country, there hasn't been as much work done on the effects of COVID, specifically in black communities, but there has been in the United States. And our outcomes are not that much different because we live under the same structures, right? So, but we've compiled a list which we'll be posting on our platforms, but we'll definitely pass along to Ray, EastEnder, and Reggie to share with you guys as well. So you don't have to take our word for it. We want to provide you the sources so you can access the information for yourselves.
Thank you very much, Dr. Atta, Dr. Krista, Nadine. Thank you for taking your time and coming to talk to our community about the effects that COVID may or may not impart on them and their families and their loved ones. I think it is essential that we talk about real knowledge, and we not just talk about WhatsApp groups. We not talk about chain emails. We not talk about hearsay. It's based in facts. And I think that's what we wanted to give today, the facts as it is. And hopefully people can go and make their own decisions. But before you go, Reggie, do you want to just give us our mathematician? Do you want to give us?
Yeah, because I wanted to give you a more accurate number from before. So before I managed to gross a percentage calculator because I couldn't do it in my head because I was busy looking at everybody's stuff. So before it was 80-20, you'd be interested to know that in favour of actually not taking the vaccine has gone down now to 66% as a result after you guys speaking. So I would like to say, well, we obviously made a difference. And I think that happened, especially after EastEnder said that he took the vaccine, and they had people knowing that you guys are taking the vaccine as well. So, you know, that is just an unscientific poll. It has come down from 80% of people not wanting to take the vaccine to now roughly 66% of people who were saying that they will not now take the vaccine. But there could be different people. There are a lot of variables. But in regards to that, you know, unscientifically, it is definitely people who have been convinced. So you've managed to convince what, roughly 16% of people.
And
14%, sorry.
That's a good result. That's a good
14%.
result.
Wow.
To change their mind.
And if we need you guys to come back on for a part 2, some people are asking possibly for a part 2. Would you lot be accessible and ready?
Very happy to. Very happy to.
Great stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Atta, Dr. Krista, and Nadine. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
for
Thank
Can
you
I just
so
say
much.
it's so
My
great
pleasure.
to see
Thank you.
some influence. If I had a doctor with a Trinidadian accent when I was in school, I would have definitely kept in society. Unfortunately, I didn't.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. I tell you what.
That's a good
One,
one.
I really want to thank those guys because seeing our own people in places where they are knowledgeable, they're experienced, they're on the front line, they're making a difference.
Yeah.
Whichever way that you want to look at it, whether you take the vaccine or not, those doctors are still making a difference. And
you know, it's so interesting, Ray. Us as parents, you want your kid to go to the best university, or regarded the best university, get the best education. These are people who have made it to what we would call the esteemed academic institutions, and they have they are
above Oxford,
Cambridge, only in the boat race, mate.
Oh, okay.
But I will say, it is just so heartwarming that they actually come back to give back information and knowledge. And for what people have heard, be honest, to get experts like that on here, we would normally have to, shell out on your black card, mate, to get such esteemed experts.
And
it's all love. And I just want to say that it's all coming from a place of love.
I'm just loving the conversations in the chat room.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
Please remember that this will stay up. You can go back and share it to somebody else and forward it to somebody else. Set the Trend podcast on Facebook and on YouTube. If you haven't been on our YouTube, can you go on our YouTube channel and subscribe to the page as well? We're not just about music here. Even though 90% of what we focus on is about music, it's about music legacy. These kind of topics do come up, and they're so important that we do give it a platform to share the knowledge, to because this WhatsApp, I tell you, this WhatsApp group, fountain of the font of knowledge. Like, I'm in about 3 or 4 WhatsApp. I'm in more than that, but I look at 3 or 4 of them. Pure COVID conspiracy theories, and like you're looking at some of them, and you're like, I don't have time to argue with.
I don't even watch him, Ray. I don't even watch him. Remember, I'm African, so the African ones are even worse. Some doctor, some assumed person whose auntie said this, auntie said that. No, listen, it's great to hear that discussion today, and my mind hasn't changed. I am going to be taking the vaccine. And my mind hasn't changed at all. But I will still be taking the vaccine.
I haven't changed. I'm only going to take it if I'm going on holiday, flying out, which will probably be soon.
What we got to do for Ray is get him a booking overseas.
Yeah, exactly.
Quick time.
I know I'm two-faced, and I know I'm
well,
two-faced.
Dubai might be opening up again, so you never know.
When we're talking about the sun, and we're talking about going on holidays and playing on holidays, yeah, which arm? This arm? I don't like. Just juke me.
Yeah, but can I ask you, Ray? I know the Duke have set the trend. Can I ask you though, on a serious note, why would you only take the vaccine because you're going on holiday? Why wouldn't you take the vaccine to save your life?
This is the thing, right? And I know this is the same for a lot of the other black people that are in the chat rooms. I don't know. I'm just not doing it because I'm being a rebel. And it's only because I don't trust the government. And because I don't trust the government, I want to stick it to the government. Probably is more so than the reasons why I wouldn't take it.
So what you're trying to say to me, and we're going to get into it now because of the result of this. I know we want to go. But what you're trying to say to me is that you value going on holiday more than the chance of you passing COVID or catching COVID from somebody in your community and them dying or potentially at risk.
I think that might have been his thought process before, but after today's conversation and when the show winds down and when he thinks about it tonight, I think he may change his mind.
That's what I think as well.
Listen, they gave me food for thought. And to be honest with you, it was great to just listen to facts. I know people are going to say the facts are based upon the facts that they give us, the government, public health, But actually, when you speak to people like Christina, who's been on the front line, and I've seen people die, I've seen people hurting for it. You kind of, when it's put in front of you like that, when it's your own, someone very close to you, when it's your own loved one that's in that place, you definitely will be thinking a bit different than how you think now. And I think before you wait for maybe to get to that space, it may be time for you to have a look at the credible advice out there and take it or not take it, but more than just listen to the WhatsApp group and the conspiracy theories. I heard one that they're putting whatever drugs that they're putting in the vaccine is the same drugs that they were using to turn people gave them thalidomide.
Oh right, yes, yeah.
Now, when I heard that, I was like, "Stop talking! What are you talking? Stop talking! You're just talking nonsense to me." You know what I'm saying to you? And this is the conspiracy theories that are born up in WhatsApp and chain letters and all these things. So, and if you're weak-minded, you will definitely be on that. And this is the thing. And on top of that, when your WhatsApp, this is like drugs. Once it's washed, once your WhatsApp goes into a community. So, for instance, if it goes into a church community, that's it. It's real because the church community have blessed it, and now they're forwarding it on as real. And we really need to get past this kind of thing here.
Well, as a friend says, health economics. Everywhere is health economics in regards to decision making. Some people do this WhatsApp thing for clout, so they can get views. Yeah. What happens with views? You make money. So
yes,
some people will have a different ulterior motive for the reason why they are actually sharing what they're sharing.
But hopefully we gave people food for thought.
Oh, they were amazing. I mean,
an informed decision, and that's all we wanted to do.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting here telling anybody to take it. I'm not sitting here telling anybody not to take it. I'm sitting here telling people to listen to the facts and make an informed decision based upon your own personal circumstances. And if it's waiting for you to do it, then so be it. I mean, we've got Eastender here. He's taking it. I'll be monitoring him very closely over the next couple of weeks, 3-4 weeks, months. He'll be my own personal research here. You know what I mean?
So what are we saying? You're waiting for one of the team to take the hit first.
I get 10
someone's got to take it for the team.
I get 10 calls from him a week. Yeah, so I'm now going to expect 20 calls a week.
Okay. Well, East, do you know what? If you can impart as much knowledge and information as you can, maybe even do a video. You should do a video blog about it, and then we can put it up on the Set the Trend YouTube about your experience, and that way you could stop all the calls coming in and just say, check out Set the Trend, and then we get more subscribers as well to come and see you.
While we're talking about that,
yeah, go on.
Next week's guest, please. Can we have the flyer on for next week? Because next week we have Jay Blades from BBC's Repair Shop.
Ooh.
I'm going to ask him if he's taken the vaccine and see what he says.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
I'm sure he has to.
Yeah, so we're going to have him in the building. We're going to be talking to him about his love of music, life, and he is the voice of Middle England. Do you guys realize how powerful Jay Blades is?
Yeah, I remember seeing him on Money for Nothing. Do you remember Money for Nothing? Anyway, we'll talk about that next week.
We'll talk about that, but that's next week Saturday at 10. And we also have Kim Tavar, who will be in the building singing live, closing the show next week. We have a live performance for her. Once again, we have to say sorry for those of you who tuned in and Donell Jones wasn't here. He has said to us he wants to reschedule it for March, so hopefully we'll have him back in the building for March. But that's happening next week. Lads, we've got to close the show because it's getting late. Reggie, this week, what you up to?
I want to see some more lives, Reggie. I want to see some more lives.
Oh yeah. I jumped on just did a tribute to you, Roy, and then I did a kind of like warehouse party type thing. You know, we're sound people, so we've got a different eclectic mix. Radio show tomorrow, 8 till 10 p.m. And also Monday from 3 till 6 p.m. There's a lot of other things that are happening, which I can't disclose business-wise on the but you will hear about them very, very, very soon. So yeah, that's about it really from me. Just another Groundhog Day week on lockdown and enjoying the company of people like yourself. And thank you to all the people who've been sending me messages as well of saying that they enjoyed my live. I very rarely do it. You know, I haven't got the swagger like you with the breakfast blues and, you know, the full stuff. But can I just say before we go, big thank you to Nadine Drummond and thank you to Dr. Atta. And Nadine, she is an inspiration. You have to check out that girl's CV. Globally, you know, she is like literally K80.
She forgot to say that girl has been
her CV.
She's been in the war zones reporting back on what's going on in the world, so she knows what it is to be in a fight. And we didn't even go into that kind of history. You know what I mean?
But go check her out, and you'll be inspired, especially for any kids out there, because we're always looking for role models. Other than the AJ Tracys and the drill artists and people like that, there are some great people like Nadine who I will definitely 100% love to introduce to a lot of the youngsters and I encourage you to get your kids to go and check her out and see what she's achieved. And that is, so great that the world is a big place.
And she didn't even tell the people that she's actually working for the UN now. But
yeah, exactly. From Lewisham. Yeah. Lewisham, of all places, Lewisham.
Yeah, Lewisham.
With the big cat.
She's done good. She's done good. EastEnder, what you up to this week?
Or was that Catford, sorry.
That's
Catford, son. I went to school with a bigger brother. You know what I mean?
What I'm up to this week, Tuesday night, Facebook Live. Meetings in the week. A couple of meetings got cancelled because of the pain in my arm the other night. But so lots of meetings this week, and my Facebook Live.
Cool, and that's on Tuesday at 10 o'clock.
Night, 10 o'clock
till when the missus says stop.
Until they say when. So we finished about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Have you taken down your other socials? It's only on Facebook, isn't it?
No, it's going to be on all platforms next week.
Oh, excellent. I'm glad that you took my advice.
We need to do a podcast.
Always take your advice, Reggie.
Thank you.
And you can catch me in the morning. When you wake up in the morning at 9 till midday, you catch me with the Breakfast Blues on Facebook, Instagram. There's Twitch and Mixcloud Pro.
And Mixcloud. And you're going to have lots of Toffee Crunch tomorrow ready. Toffee Crunch cereal.
Shut your face. I said, shut your face. And just remember to like and subscribe to Set the Track podcast on Facebook and on YouTube. Leave me alone, Reggie, please.
Fantastic show. Thank you all, everyone in the chat room. They're still in there chatting away.
Isn't it? Blue by name, blue by nature tomorrow. Definitely going to be a blue day.
No, but can we just say a big thank you? Can we just let the applause out to the people who've been in the chat room on Facebook and YouTube who have been putting
I was trying to keep up, but they've been fantastic. I can't wait to go back and read, because we always go back and read all the comments. But anyway, let's get off here before the producers kick us out.
We're up, thanks to the producers as well as for being behind the scenes and making everything tick tock. See you next week. We're here between 10 o'clock next week with the one and only
Jay Blades
from BBC's Repair Shop at 10 o'clock live in the studio. We'll see you then. Thank you very much. And to our guests, also, we salute you. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. See you guys later. We're out. Peace.